everyone. This is a first time interview, and I got a special guest, which is Kristina. I know her from class from Berkeley, but I've been also tuning into her music and getting to know her more. And so, with this new single, Bankrupt, I am super excited. So, Kristina, introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Aurora. I'm Kristina Evonne. I am an outlaw country singer. Kind of describe it as outlaw country with feminist twist. So that's super fun. I do like Americana country style. I've been writing music for a long time. It's been about 14 years since I released like my first song, and I love music. I'm really passionate about mental health, and that's a pretty recurring theme in my music. And yeah, just a little bit about me. I'm based in Utah right now, and I love being outside, especially in the sagebrush. Or I'm not near an ocean, but I love the ocean. So
It's always nice to love the ocean.
oh,
I
right.
was I wish I was near the ocean, but I'm like Houston based. And
Okay.
so to get to any type of beach, we have to like drive like 2 hours away to go to Galveston. And like even then there's like different certain areas of like beaches, but we always take the ferry to go down there and
Yeah,
then just go into some like salty water.
it's the best. Like feeling the sand between your toes, there's nothing that replaces that. It's perfect.
It's so real and kind of like so comforting in a
Yeah.
way. So I very much love that. I want to get into like before we even talk about Bankrupt, right? You mentioned like with the feminine twist like Americana. Can you like explain or expand that a little more for people who don't like understand what
Yeah,
you mean?
absolutely. So Americana is like a whole, it's like an umbrella of all the genres, right? There's a lot of there's country, there's folk, there's R&B, there's all everything underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
My particular mix of Americana is roots rock with blues influenced harmonies. And then I grew up on a lot of Ella Fitzgerald. And so there's a lot of like jazz as well. And
Ooh,
like if you listen to like the melody line or where like it kind of falls in my voice, you'll hear that.
I definitely do hear that in the track for sure. Like especially in like yeah, there's Bankrupt, but I think I hear a little bit on like Run.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, which was
Yeah.
very much a fun listen and very enjoyable. And also with you playing with harmonies, which we'll get into later because I'm always curious about harmonies. It was like so fascinating here. It's like you experimenting with your sound a bit, so it's lovely.
Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. That really it means so much. Like any for just taking the time to listen.
Yeah, of course. I always like to explore or try to listen as much times to get like a vision of what the artist is going for, so I really enjoy that listen.
Yeah.
um but let's get the ball rolling. So how did your single Bankrupt come about?
Wow, that's a great question. So I was thinking about this. So, like I said, I've been pursuing music for about 14 years. And every chance that I get to move forward or to make progress, like I'm always trying to move forward. And last year, I had to have a minor back surgery that put me out
Mm.
of music and performing for about 8 months. And where music is like the way I process any kind of emotion, it really like it really wrecked my mental health. Like I really struggled. On top of that, like I was out of work for a year and just trying to get a job that I could work, but also like I had to lay down a lot when I
Mm.
while recovering from my back surgery. So that was really hard to get a job. I also had a lot of things happening with like dissonance in my faith and trying to untie some things there. And so it created this perfect storm of just a really like feeling really worn out and burnt out. Especially I remember like in the summer I'd see people posting all the time, like, hey, I've got this show and this show, I'm doing this, I'm releasing this. And I'm like, I'm on my couch. I'm on my couch. I can't do a show for like 45 minutes. I was used to doing a lot longer shows than that. And so it really, I just felt worn out. I felt worn out. I felt burnt out and was like, I'm done. I'm so tired. I'm done pursuing music, right? I think we all get to that point where
Mm-hmm.
we're just ready to throw in the towel. But then there also came a moment during that recovery that I started getting ready to go to Berkeley. And one of those things that I wanted to do to prepare for my class was write 50 songs. And so I took that time, like while I was on my couch, just healing, to write.
Mm-hmm.
And it really like is one of the best things that could have happened for me. Looking back at the moment, it was awful, but it really helped me recognize, like, you know, if I'm gonna make something happen, like if I really want to pursue music, I I have to, I'm responsible for everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um like I can't just wait for somebody to be like, oh, you know, I think there's kind of that old belief like, oh, you get discovered, you do this, and that doesn't exist. It's there's so much, and it's really um kind of a, I'm looking for the word, but just like that's not that's not a good expectation to have.
Mm-hmm.
And so just realizing like, hey, like I'm in charge of this, it's up to me, like I'm going to take responsibility. And so I think in that process of feeling worn out, and then all of a sudden realizing like, hey, no, this is up to me, I have to do this, came the song. And I remember I had my voice note of it, and I actually had started playing with another song, and then all of a sudden I had this idea, just say like, my soul is bankrupt. And
Mm-hmm.
as I was listening back, I was like, oh, this is the song. This is great.
It's like that captured that feeling because the more you talk about the song, it almost feels like you were being tested. Like
Yeah,
sitting, like again, sitting on your couch, seeing what everybody is doing, it, messes up your mentality in a
yeah,
way. And I experience those moments too where it's like you have something that you want to keep on doing and pursuing, but then you see others doing it and you could just kind of compare yourself and it takes you into like a dark place.
yeah,
So whenever I was listening to the song for the first time, it felt like there was something being like taken advantage of here and you were just kind of over it, I want to say, but just
hmm,
hearing your perspective like added onto that makes it very much clearer what the song is. And so I that's very creative. And also like the voice note, because I sometimes do like voice notes for anything I hear in my head and want to place
yeah,
like down and everything, lose track, or maybe like a thought and idea. You to come back and circle back to that like song fit in that moment and you were able to, I want to assume like you were able to finish the track because it's released.
yeah.
um so you just kind of set a tone for yourself, which is very impressive. So I'm very proud of you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And so now on to my next question. Since I noticed with the tracks, as I was mentioning about like the Apple Music and everything, I've noticed there's like three. And
Mhm.
you were talking about like waterfalling and everything kind of like sounded like an EP. As for the theme, right? What made you want to go for that outlaw, like rustic type of, genre or like story, I want to say?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. As far as like storytelling, so I before I started writing music, I started writing music about like 12, when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
I loved storytelling. I loved writing. Like my goal was to be a published author. I remember like having this goal in fifth grade. That did not happen, but I found music, and it I actually started out in the pop genre, which is really interesting to me.
Ooh, okay.
Um, and so I kind of once I started listening a little bit more to Americana and experimented a little more with storytelling, I
Mhm.
realized that like Americana really allowed for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it kind of just started became this like natural path from like going to like pop and then inching a little bit to folk and then going to Americana country side of the world. Um so that's kind of with like storytelling how I found that. And then as far as like the outlaw, so I have ADHD and anxiety. Surprise. I feel like that's like kind of the most obvious thing, but some people don't know. So I have never felt like I fit in. I felt like my the way I think about things, like
Mhm.
I always felt like it just does not fit any specific space. And so I actually really resonate with the outlaw, thinking
Mhm.
about that the pieces of not fitting in, not feeling like something really kind of fits exactly. And then kind of that rustic vibe is I'm from Utah and I grew up in a sagebrush town. Um and there's sagebrush everywhere. And I actually like there's it's kind of it took a long time for me to be at peace being from like my hometown,
Mhm.
um but kind of connecting to like the sagebrush into the mountains and finding peace with that. I feel like that really, as I like embraced that, I've found like I wove it more into my music, if that makes sense.
Mhm. That does
uh,
make sense.
uh,
So, okay. So then like this question popped into my head. You
yeah.
s- you said like in your hometown, am I saying this right? Like sagebrush, is that like a place or like
So sagebrush, it's like it's a plant.
oh, it's a plant. Okay, okay, okay.
Hi. Yeah, it is. I don't have my phone on me, but if you Google sagebrush, it's green. Um, it's really it's dry because Utah's a desert, and
Mhm.
it's very brittle. Like there's so many metaphors in the plant itself
Mhm.
that like I just really love it.
Would you say would that be cuz I'm trying to think of the word that's in my head right now. Um would you say like would you say like when you're looking at that plant like it sets you into reality like it calms you down or
Yeah,
you know
absolutely, it's very grounding. Um,
yes, that's the word.
yeah, it it really is. I think it really helps me like kind of tune into where I'm at now,
Mhm.
not like not having my head spin. Like if I can just even it's not just sagebrush, but like just being outside in the
Mhm.
mountains is really just a way for me to clear my mind. And yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that also plays circle back to mental health. That also plays
Yeah.
back on like when you feel like super overwhelmed, like you can't, think of like anything or you're just like writer's block, artist block or whatever. You need something to like ground you. You need something to, change your pace. Like take a step back, walk away. Maybe this is what needs to happen right now. I could like sit and wallow, which is fine, go ahead and cry your tears out.
Mhm.
But but like at some point you just need to put yourself, into another perspective. So being outside is very helpful. And so I like that that plant is just there for you or, outside in general is like your grounding space to like set
Yeah.
back in reality and feel comfort.
No, absolutely. That's exactly it. Yeah.
And so, okay, so then this kind of correlates with my next question. Really like this song, Something About to Begin, because it feels like when it goes to the end track, I feel like if you have the whole thing in like in loop, you go
Hmm.
back to Bankrupt and it's starting the story like all over again.
Hmm.
So it's my personal favorite track. Can you tell me how that track came together?
Yeah. And thank you for listening too. That makes me so happy. So um I actually wrote this song after a really great show.
Mm-hmm.
I had a show, and I was like that it it made me really happy. It made me feel like things were starting to gel a little bit more in regards to like my music career. Um, the first verse of that song talks about like driving, and driving. I've always had a very rocky relationship with driving. I'm a great driver, but it especially I've had a lot of anxiety with that. And so kind of I compare that first verse to driving, and then that chorus is just the hope and optimism of something in the future that's not quite there yet, but almost like manifesting it and being like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what, something great is going to happen, like, and I'm going to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it was really fun. There's a banjo on that track. I'm actually playing banjo on that track.
Ooh.
I learned a little riff to play it. I don't play banjo, but I love it. I do now. I write on it, but
So you kind of use it as like a playful tool then. Like you haven't been like properly just like playing banjo. It's just something for fun. This is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And I find that a lot with a lot of instruments. Like I have a Nashville strung guitar
Mhm.
that like I don't really, well, I play guitar. But this happened with like the mandolin, the banjo, like anything that I try kind of unlocks a new space of
Mhm.
writing in my brain. And so the banjo's just really special. So it did that for me.
That's awesome. I love that. Um, is there any other instruments I guess play for fun besides like the string? Like have you like touched like piano or like maybe the piccolo or something? I don't know.
Yeah. That'd be amazing. That I wish that was like my secret talent that I could play the piccolo. Um, I so my main instrument's guitar. I play a little bit of the piano. I
Mhm.
sing. I grew up playing violin, and so you'll
Mm.
actually hear the violin on the that track. I'm also playing violin. Um, that's as far as like what I play, what I can decently play.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, that's great then. Um So, okay, speaking of instruments, the voice is like the instrument of like
Mhm.
each track. And
Yeah.
so, as for harmonies, I could definitely
Yeah.
hear them in the tracks. So, and I've always found those exciting. So, what's it like working with harmonies? Was it fun? Was it challenging?
Yeah.
Um,
That's a really good question. So I have a love-hate relationship with harmony. I love when I very first listen, and I just kind of, so what I'll do is I'll listen, and then I'll just record whatever I'm hearing as a harmony. It's going back and finding like, okay, what's the chord structure? Like what note am I missing here that needs to go down? And so when it's all together as one piece, it sounds so cool. Like
Mhm.
it sounds amazing, but it's really, I struggle with it a lot
Mhm.
with the like multiple harmonies. If it's just one harmony, I hear it pretty easily, like pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting. In comparison to the song, so like Bankrupt, I knew where I wanted the harmonies on that song. Same with Run. I like to play with lower harmonies,
Mm.
with sprinkled in high harmonies. But I find those low harmonies are really, really fun. And I hear them a lot. I'll study like different Americana songs and different country songs and hear where those harmonies are happening, and like what like how far apart they are, like what chords they're using. And so
Mhm.
I try to learn from those and then take that and apply that to what I'm learning, to what I'm making.
Hmm, okay. So, kind of what I'm hearing is like you kind of just like map them out. Like once the track is like, kind of like flat finish, you're just like going back over lyrics or like over certain tracks being like, okay, this is what I hear. Maybe I should add it or maybe I should come back to this later. And then like you come back with like, okay, maybe I should go higher or lower. Is that what I'm like getting at?
Yeah, yeah. I'd say that's pretty accurate. How about for you? Like if you're tracking harmonies, what does that look like for you?
So, personally, I'm not like a singer. I like,
Mhm,
karaoke and all that, but like when it comes to choir and certain notes, or even like watching like videos of people just like, like tracking their harmonies. Like for example, Ariana Grande,
mhm.
she is a beast in like Pro Tools, and so she will go back and like listen a bunch of times and see which one is going to be better than the other.
Uh-huh.
I believe she maps out her harmonies, because like you always see her in her studio and she has got like a pencil in her like lyric sheet, and like
Mhm.
keeps going like back in and back in, and each time when she's not feeling a harmony she'd be like, okay, run it back, run it back, run it back, because like she has that like perfection ear. And so whenever I'm seeing like stuff like that, it's very challenging. And so it's not like an easy thing to do either. And
Mhm.
so just to see like, artists like yourself, doing it, it's very hardworking, and it takes like a really good ear to be able to perfect those harmonies. So I want to commend, you and all of artists that are like that, a round of applause, because that's impressive for sure.
Yeah, it really is, and thank you. That's really cool. With I love Ariana Grande. I she
Mhm.
her musicality, her artistry is beyond this world. It's amazing.
Yes.
It really takes like such a discipline. I feel like
Mhm.
because you have to almost like separate yourself from the song and then be like, okay, like approaching it in a different way. And like she does that. Like it really is very commendable.
And that's also the thing too, because like you're also thinking about like, okay, what sounds good as a studio version, and then what
Mhm.
sounds good for like a live concert or an intimate concert,
Yeah, absolutely.
that plays like a key factor, because obviously you can't go to the studio and do like tons of like runs and like scream your like heart out, like it's a concert, but you could do those things. That's why the aspect of like concerts and touring, those are for the purpose of like fun, like doing whatever you want to do with that track. And
Mhm.
so yeah, that's the like two separate things. So like again, like y'all have like good ears of like what's good and what's not good, what's better for the studio, and then what's better for the live. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So as I was saying earlier about Apple Music and that everything is tracked together, each song sounded like an EP. Um, should we expect like a full album in the near future, like with that sort of theme and style?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I right now I think it's going to be called Sagebrush Americana.
Ooh.
I'm very excited. That should be so kind of looking at how things are going to go. I've got another song I'm planning to release in the end of next month, the end of June, and then probably something around July, and then an EP at the end of August.
Ooh.
And then like full length album, I'd love to have it done the end of this year, but I know things can get a bit crazy, so I'm gonna say early spring of 2026.
Oh, that's awesome. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's so fitting for you, because you have so much of like a lively, like warm sound. And
Thank
so
you.
springtime is definitely the, good time to release, because then you also got, you know, people like in hot weather or like very breezy weather, and then it's also near summertime too, so that kind of
Mhm.
correlates, everybody's out of school, they're looking for new music, looking for new stuff. So everything aligns on that part. And so that sounds super exciting.
Thank
Can't
you.
wait. Um, can you give us a little tease on what the next single's gonna be? Like, what is that about? Like a story?
I'm very I feel like every single song I'm like, oh, this is a great one. No, but this one's better. Um, yeah, so this one is it is the feeling of being turned inside out with change.
Mm,
That's like what this song is about. And it definitely has more, a little more experimentation with the instruments. So we've got the mandolin in this one.
mhm.
There's the violin, and it's definitely a very like storytelling track. So
Hmm.
um yeah, it's gonna be great.
Okay, so moving on from your little album talk, which I'm very
Mhm.
excited.
Yeah,
Um, with the music you're releasing, um, how would you compare like this like project to your earlier works? Because I feel like I could hear a little like difference, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's a lot more vulnerable.
Mm.
It's a lot more honest about my emotions, and I think that's come with like learning how to actually like process emotions. Musically, it's a totally different genre. In the past, it was pop, and now it's like Americana,
Mm-hmm.
country, and it's a very clear difference. If you hear what I was doing like 2 years ago, you'd be like, "Who is this? This is not the same artist."
How okay, so you said like pop. What goes through the mind of pop Christina versus Americana Christina?
Pop
Because I'm very
Christina
curious.
loves, yeah, Pop Christina loves synthesizers, loves them, loves a good synthesizer, misses them. Um, but this is very Americana Christina is very centered on storytelling, being
Mm,
very focused on the story that's being told and like staying in that one lane of thought, if that makes sense.
mhm,
So like Bankrupt is going to stay in the same story, same place. It's not going to go and try and explore different stories in
mhm.
one song. Um, yeah,
Okay. So, because I know you're gonna do like a whole like full rundown like schedule once this album release, very Americana with a female twist, which I love saying that. That's
yeah.
it's
Thank you.
already it's already interesting as is. But once that, like press is done or like that run through of that album is done, are you ever gonna be open to like different genres? Is there a genre you haven't tapped yet but you want to in the future?
Mm. You know, I see myself staying in Americana. Um, I could see myself veering more country, like really
Mm,
leaning more into the country world. I see a little further down the road, um, possibly jazz.
ooh.
But I love this realm. I feel like it gives me a lot. I like there's so much to explore. Like I can explore folk, I can explore country, and there's just so many ways to tie that together. You know, I could do more rock heavy, I could do more bluegrass heavy. Like
Mhm.
um so that's I see myself staying in this lane for quite a while.
That's good to hear. And also, like when you were mentioning, like jazz can tie into everything. Like there's like jazz pop, jazz funk, jazz country. So like if you ever want to play around with that, it's not staying far away from country. It's just you're
Mhm.
a little experimenting, a little like soul there. So it's nice that you're very into jazz. So I can't wait to hear some like jazz Christina. I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure she's somewhere in the mind, just
she's
waiting to pop
she's
out.
somewhere. She's on that road. I gotta get to her first.
Exactly, exactly. Um, okay. So I know earlier we were talking about like, harmonies and everything. With this question I have specifically for you is that I don't know if you like record in your like home studio or if you go to an actual studio, but like what goes through your mind whenever you're in the creative process of creating like a new song or finishing up a new song? Like what goes through your mind or like thoughts whenever you're
Yeah.
doing those things?
So it'll usually start with a voice memo.
Mhm.
That's like 90% where things start for me. And then I will usually use like the acoustic guitar to run through my ideas to really get my lyrics to this
Mhm.
place I want them to be. And then from there, I'll do a couple things. I'll either um, track like the guitar and voice in the studio, which is really fun. I love doing that. But more recently, I brought it to like my band.
Hmm.
and we've kind of worked things out there. So if there's like an electric guitar part, my husband plays electric guitar, and so we'll work that out together. But I like to have as detailed of a picture of the song as I can when I bring it into the studio. I like to know, like, what are my references, where, like, um what instruments are going to go where, who, what do we need to bring in. And so I try to be really diligent in that, so
Hmm.
I'm efficient with time.
Hmm.
And then harmonies, I'll usually like map them out in my studio, and just then it'll, because it's a lot easier for me to just map them out and then like bring them, say, okay, this is at this measure, this measure, this measure, and then be able to track them all.
Hmm.
um but yeah, that's about what that process recording wise. And then there's like mixing, which is like a whole nother brain, and getting to that final song.
Okay. So it sounds like, a very busy schedule. So, like, another question within that question is like, what's your day-to-day schedule like when it's, something creative song? Like, take me through like, okay, breakfast time into like further nighttime,
Yeah.
you know?
So breakfast, I start the day, I'll usually do warm-ups, like vocal warm-ups in the morning, and then I work, so I can fund my dreams until they
Mhm.
start funding themselves.
Yeah.
And then I will come home, and I'll either, like, I have like a calendar for myself. So like there's twice a week, like I'll have a meeting with myself and say, like, okay, this is what I need to do to prepare for this week. So I have a day that I work on filming video or any
Mhm.
promo. I have another day that I reach out for gigs. And then I usually have one or two recording days during the week when I'm recording. And so it's pretty, like, I have to be very disciplined with my time
Mm.
and very focused, and make sure I'm not letting things slip between the cracks, because they really do.
I think I'm the same way too. I try to time myself because sometimes I can lose track of time.
Yeah.
And then whenever I don't set a schedule for myself, I often take more naps than more needed to. And so that tends to happen. So if I just like plan out my day, I just know things are gonna get done,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
That does, yeah.
So good on you for having a good schedule. It sounds like a good schedule.
I mean, that's like my ideal day, right? I mean,
Right, yeah,
how
yeah.
things really go is, it's like I planned that something's gonna take me 2 hours. It actually is gonna take me four. And
Yeah.
then it's like I have to constantly be revising. Like, that's a good day, would be a very, very structured day. I'm
Mhm.
still teaching my brain to like the structure.
Mhm. I think with structure, because I'm currently learning that in my Berkeley class, like project management,
Oh
and
yeah.
so far they let us like play around like Smartsheet, where you kind of put like your days, like put your certain projects and then what goes into those projects, and then is there a start date and is there an end date, and it kind
Mm.
of sets you up, okay, this is how many days it's going to take to finish that project, or this like little project within that big project. um and if there's like, any slack days, like how is that going to look like are you going to be able to finish this
Mm.
project on time, like all that scenario. So that's giving me a new perspective of how people like manage their time. And
God.
so I just want to implement that like tool in my life sometime. Right now it's kind of looking wonky, but but it's a nice tool to have and learn. And so I'm very appreciative of that. But yeah, okay, so next one, I feel like this ties into the very last one, but I just want to get this out the way. Like, how long have you been with your like band? Like, how long they've been collaborating with you?
So my band, it, so I didn't start performing with a band till last year.
Mm.
Um, I've been like creating and performing on my own and like recording for 14 years.
Mhm.
But my band and I had our first show last summer.
Wow. So how did that come to be then? How were you able to like connect to the band? Did you have to reach out or did someone in the band reach out to you?
So I reached out to everybody. Um, my husband's dad is a great drummer. He's the drummer on Bankrupt.
Oh,
And
awesome.
yeah, and these future tracks, and um, he he's always talked about wanting to play drums, and so I was like, hey, I have a gig. I'd
Mhm.
love to have a full band, and so I had him. We just started practicing together, and then there was a really great bass player. He's also playing on this. His name's Ron.
Hmm.
Um, he's phenomenal. I saw him play live one time, and I was like, he's really great. Obviously, like I didn't want to just like coach him, and so I
Mhm,
reached out.
mhm.
He's like, oh yeah, I'm not like playing. That was just like a one off. I was like, great, getting you, um, and he's so creative in the studio. I work with some really amazing musicians. And then my husband Preston, he plays electric guitar, and
Mhm.
um, he's all people are always like, oh, are you gonna do anything together? And um, it's like, well, we don't really do a ton, but we actually wrote together. We wrote Bankrupt together, and um, he did like the solo and like the electric guitar work, and so
Mhm.
um whenever I do like a duo set, it'll just be like him and I, but it's really nice to just have a guitar player that I can reach out to. But yeah, so I reached out to him and Kelly and Ron, and we made a band, and yeah.
Awesome. So I can't like I vaguely remember, but also can't remember. There was a guitar solo in Bankrupt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was your husband.
Yeah, yep, that's Preston. Uh-huh.
I was jamming to that. That was so good. And
He's gonna be so happy. I'll tell him.
I highlighted that in my review. Like I remember just like writing it down and like this guitar solo is great and very much goes along with the track. And so
Mm-hmm.
just to have that moment there and just sink it and let the music, talk for itself or like in that moment was like super fascinating to hear. So like props to your husband for sure.
Oh, he killed it on the solo. He wrote the solo. He did like he did that whole thing, and I like he's amazing. I'll tell him you said so because he'll that it'll make his day.
Good, good. Um okay, so we're getting to the last question. Um I know you're talking about like, there's going to be an EP and then like a full album near springtime of next year. Is that
Hmm.
like correct and everything?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So, is there any like artists you're like working with or want to work like in the future? It doesn't have to be in like this album, but like in the future down the line if you were able to like meet like an artist that you like, is there any collaborators you want to join in a song?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple of artists like that are Utah based. That I probably not this album.
Mhm.
But I would love to work with them. Seymour is one of those artists. She's really great. She's fun. There I have another friend. His name's John Elwood Morgan. He does like folk style, and I think it would be the funnest thing to have him on any of these songs. Um, as far as artists that I would one day love to get to work with and write with, I think it would be a dream to work with Ella Langley. I think she
Mm.
would be phenomenal. I really look up to Lainey Wilson, and I, again, that would be like a dream come true.
The ultimate dream.
Yeah.
Manifest that for yourself. That should
Yeah, exactly. And the other one would be having like Chris Stapleton on guitar
Ooh,
or something. That would
sick.
be amazing. Yeah. That
It's
will
like
be
you're
amazing.
It's like if that ever comes occur, like I could just imagine you like telling like your husband like step to the side. It's
I know. He's like, whenever you find like another guitar player, like, and I tell him, I'm like, you don't have to do this. You're like, tell me when you're done and you can be done. Like, that's
Mhm,
fine.
mhm.
Um, And I'll have him as long as he wants to, but I know it it just, I mean, if Chris Stapleton were in the picture, I think he'd probably understand that one.
He'd probably be like, "Yeah, that's fair. I'll back off."
Yeah, he'd encourage that.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for answering my questions. It was very nice to have this interview with you. You've been such
God,
a joy. Of
thank you
course.
so much, Aurora. And I love getting to talk with you. I'm so happy I know you, and especially with classes and everything. And yeah, just I'm excited to keep seeing what you do.
Thank you. And it's so nice being with class too, because like if I were to never like do Berkeley or start like Berkeley again a different semester, I think I would like never like meet y'all. And I feel like for the music business, right, it was very much I feel like people were more engaging this time and wanted to get to know each other more. And because everybody is like new, everybody's like a blank slate, like they're just trying to get to know. So it was very much a pleasure to be in a class with like you and so many others. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Is there anything else you want to say to my platform? Anyone you want to plug in or say like a thank you for, being on a project like Bankrupt or in the future?
I'd say just keep following your channel because what you're doing is amazing. It's Rock's Cat.
Yeah,
Man,
rocks.
is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, if I say it wrong, I'm gonna be so mad.
You're good.
Yeah, like follow you because you're doing amazing things. If you love what you're hearing, you can follow me on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you love to listen to music. You can sign up for my email. I'd love to stay in contact. And there's some really great music happening. So please follow along and thank you for being on this journey with me.
Awesome. Well, that's it, guys.